That's one of my favorite Super Bowl moments. Okay, that was one of my favorite Super Bowl moments. Was watching those two guys coaching against one another, watching Brady and watching Foles. I think today's the anniversary of the parade, if I'm not mistaken. I think Doug Peterson's coaching job in Super Bowl 52, Weeb Ewbank, absolutely. Weeb Ewbank in Super Bowl 3 against the Colts and Don Shula. That would have to be. Dr. Grossinger, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. Sorry about those technical difficulties with so many speakers, but on the eve of the Super Bowl, it's great to see you, and I always enjoy your work.
Thank you so much. Are you excited about the game?
I can't wait. I'm flying out tomorrow, and I'm helping with the interviews of the Eagles and coaches tomorrow, and then there's a few events, including the Phoenix Open on Sunday, and then the game, of course. I'm flying out with my son, so it's a father-son experience, and can't wait.
So wait a minute. You're going to the Waste Management Open on Sunday?
I'll go early in the morning, and then from there, we get a shuttle to the stadium, so it'll be a good doubleheader.
Well, make sure you wear beer goggles.
I will. Especially with that 16th hole, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Dr. Grossinger, let's get into the health of the Eagles here as we get ready for the game on Sunday. From what you've seen from 30,000 feet, watching Jalen play in the last two playoff games, just give me a broad basis on what you're seeing with his flexibility, his ability to be able to throw. And I'll give you a little bit of insight. When Peter King asked him a question about how his arm was feeling, he said, I thought my arm was going to fall off when I threw that 40-yard pass in the Giant game. And they kind of really didn't throw a lot in the Niner game. They didn't have to. But those kind of comments there, boy, it just looks to me like there's some kind of rotator issue here. And I'm no doctor. You are. Give me your synopsis of what you've seen through these two games.
I really share your concern. You know, the Eagles, it's easier to get information from Chinese balloons than it is from the Eagles when it comes to injuries. But I agree. His arm just doesn't look right. He's throwing those balls. They're flatter than normal. He doesn't have a normal trajectory. And I know the Eagles don't want to admit that he's hurt, but I'm concerned that he has more than just a sternoclavicular strain. They haven't leaked out. They haven't told us what the MRI shows. And I bet there's some rotator cuff pathology. I agree with you.
So, like, again, just by what I've seen and by the way that they've played, and they've been really fortunate, how important were these 2 weeks, do you think? I mean, and when you have something, and again, you and I are speculating here, we're not putting a diagnosis on anything, that can't be healed, but with massive rest, right? Do you agree, Bruce, that Dr. Grossinger, these 2 weeks really not going to make a difference on him, whether he's healthy or not going into this game? Because if you've got a significant shoulder injury like that, you need to, again, have rest. Is that correct? Okay, hopefully we're able to reconnect here again here. And here. We're able to reconnect here and get his thoughts here on that, because I happen to agree. And Dr. Grossinger, wouldn't you agree that 2 weeks rest is not really going to matter here? Because especially when we're talking about something that could be structurally with an issue.
Well, I agree. It's certainly better than not. It's better than going week to week. And particularly with Mahomes, that's another thing we could talk about briefly. But I think he's probably going to need a clean out in the offseason. They're going to have to put a scope in there, and they may need to reattach and tighten up that shoulder. So I don't think it's like the gate hasn't fallen off, but I think it's a loose hinge, and he might get some cortisone or dexamethasone in the joint, in the shoulder. He'll be icing it up. They'll be optimizing it, and like you said, he's a gamer. He's going to throw it till his arm falls off. But I'm hoping with this offensive line that they'll be able to impose their will. And it's interesting, when the shoulder is down, the elbow is in, that's a position of function. So if he can carry the ball and hold his elbow in and run, it'll be much better than throwing the ball.
Would he benefit from wearing a shoulder brace?
I think at this point it would really get in his way. You know, I mean, he hasn't worn one all year, and I think it's the Super Bowl. I think it would just get in his way. It's funny. It's like a baseball pitcher. You could put a 1 ounce weight in their hat Like they tried to put Kevlar in there. And these are such fine-tuned athletes. It drove them nuts. So I think a brace would drive him nuts. So regrettably, I don't think he would wear it.
Give me a little insight on Lane's injury. Dr. Grossinger, is it a hernia that he has, or explain to me why you can rip it completely away from the bone and he have more range of motion and he's better that it's been more injured. I mean, these really look like really tough like injuries, and I've never had one of these. I've had tons of other ones. Explain what Lane's going through.
Okay, so there's 3 layers. There's 3 core layers of muscle, and from what I understand, the injury is on one side. It's not the whole thing, but it's just on one side. It's the oblique muscle. So when he turns and pivots, the oblique is right below the lat muscle. So it is a very important muscle. And the superficial muscle, which is the rectus abdominis, is torn, I understand. But the transverse abdominis, it provides a lot of support. In the second layer, I think is perfect for what I hear from my sources inside. So there is not a situation where the bowel, a hernia would be where the bowel actually would come through the muscle, and that could potentially cause very dangerous problem where the bowel could lose its blood supply and become necrotic, and somebody could actually die. He does not have that situation. So I believe that he has torn abdominal muscles that are very painful. I believe he will need to get them all reattached to the offseason. According to what Lane said, and he's nothing if not honest, he said he felt a lot worse after the Giants game, and he felt relatively better after the 49ers game. So it's a matter of pain control. And he's going to be a guy who's going to wear a core brace, and he'll be able to do his thing. But that'll be different than, of course, what we're talking about with Jalen, which involves a very complicated throwing motion. So I understand that that Lane does have some extra padding and some braces, and I think we're going to see maybe 80 to 9% of Lane Johnson.
Dr. Grossinger, I talked to Howie Long about this injury because he had it. He said he struggled more sitting down than standing up. Is that why, again, you're seeing him pretty much play at the level that he's playing still? Because there's got to be some discomfort somewhere, either sliding your feet, standing up, sitting down, hell, going to the bathroom. I mean, all of that has to be a factor because your stomach muscles, they control so much, your core controls so much of your lower and upper body.
You're absolutely right. And it is bad. And I bet when he wakes up in the morning after sleeping at night, obviously you're asleep, you're not in control. Most people with these injuries are in most pain in the morning. And once they are able to stretch out, walk around a little bit, and he's got a whole physio team working with him, and he's got to get through this one game. And I see the big advantage of the Eagles, their offensive line, each one of them might be the best offensive line the Eagles have ever had. And Kenneth Gainwell and Sanders and even Boston Scott, I think they're going to try to impose their will on the Chiefs, who are a finesse team. And we just beat a very physical team, albeit with no quarterback. So I'm hoping they can control the clock and run it and throw as needed. And but I am concerned about Jalen. I listened to a lot of your stuff, and I'm glad I can chime in now about the rotator cuff. I'm very concerned.
Mahomes, ankle injury. Is there a difference in length of rest that you're needed when it comes to a high ankle sprain or a lower ankle sprain? Dr. Grossinger, when I played, I never heard of a high ankle sprain. I didn't know what that was. That's a new kind of terminology, I would say, over the last 20 years. Give me the differentiation, because they're now saying that he's roughly around 95% now. So the rest now they could be snow jobbing it, but the way he's moving around in practice, he looks a lot more mobile now than he did getting into the AFC title game.
I would agree. Well, you've had a pulled calf and calf strains, like gastroc strains, and I've had him, play basketball, tennis. You just feel a pop, and you lose a certain percent of your muscles. And what happens is the muscle can grow back. Actually, the calf. It does. It's a very vascular area. Ironically, the Achilles is the least vascular area in the body. That's why it's so slow. But the calf is such a vascular area that you can come back. And those muscles that are basically not working with the calf pull, that I'm sure you've had many times, you know how it comes back and you feel like it's never been gone. So it's really, they used to call it a gastroc strain, and now it's a fancier word. It's a high ankle strain, which is basically a gastrocnemius muscle tear. And there's so many fibers. Think about the transverse diameter of the gastrocs. There's so many fibers there that when they heal up, they basically join their neighbors, and they can start pushing, which is plantar flexion.
So if you're the Eagles, what I would do is I try to bring as much pressure as I can. Let's see how healthy he is, right? I mean, move him around.
Especially knowing that Mahomes is a unicorn. He actually has a higher complete percentage. When you flush him out of the pocket, he could release from any arm angle. He could throw shovel passes under. Like with him and Kelsey, they have incredible chemistry there. And the two people that scare me the most are obviously Mahomes and Kelsey, because if they're on, it's going to be difficult. But they really need to sack him. And their tackles are their weak areas. So certainly need Reddick, certainly need Brandon Graham. We need to sack this guy and put him on his butt, because when you flush him out of the pocket, that's when the magic starts happening with Mahomes. So I'm very concerned, and you never know what to believe. If he really had a bad ankle strain, the Chiefs would be, they'd be loath to admit it, because I'm sure everybody's going to be targeting his ankles anyway. That's the reality. You played the game, and that's what you do. Frankly, it was a legal hit of Reddick on Purdy, and that was a legal hit. And that basically won the game for him.
Finally, on the Purdy injury, what would you recommend for the 49ers with the type of injury that he sustained? Would you recommend surgery, or would you recommend rest?
I would recommend surgery. He's had a complete tear of the ulnar collateral ligament, essentially even a worse tear than Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper had a partial tear. He was able to get PRP, platelet-rich plasma, and play through it. Purdy's a young guy. He needs a complete repair, a complete Tommy John. Then he needs a lot of rehab, and he's a young man, and he's going to be up, sometime in the early, probably late preseason. He'll be up against Trey Lance, and those two will probably be duking it out. And I envision the Niners drafting a mid-level quarterback, so they're going to have three young guys duking it out and let the best man win.
Absolutely. Real quick, Eagles, right? Sunday? Eagles big or Eagles close?
I'll say Eagles medium. I'll say Eagles by 10, which I think is medium. I'm not superstitious. A lot of people are not making predictions. I believe what I see is a team that's complete, and I see Andy Reid in a team that's a finesse team that has Mahomes and has Kelsey and very average wide receivers. I think the Eagles are loaded from top to bottom, offense, defense, special teams, albeit not a great punter, but excluding the punter. And I just think they're going to be at least 60% Eagles fans, just like I remember Jacksonville, Minnesota. This is going to be a block party. There's a million people out there right now in Phoenix. I plan to jump on a plane tomorrow, and I really appreciate you having me on, Dan.
Thank you so much, Doc. Travel safe. We'll see you down the line. Thank you so much for coming aboard.
Have a great night.
You got it. That is Dr. Bruce Grossinger, JAKIB Sports' doctor, giving us the insight of what he sees with the Eagles getting ready for Super Bowl 57. We're also going to talk to Randy Cross in a couple minutes, so we'll get his thoughts. The owner of 3 Super Bowls, covering the game for CBS Sports. We'll talk to him